the place just goes electric with "We Want Dallas." I mean, it brings the hair up. It still does.
Welcome to Heel. Gets open for three. Dagger!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
This is a complicated business. My name is Joe. His name is FP on mic number 2. It is Dallas week here in DC, and if that doesn't get you excited, FP, I don't think anything will get you excited. The Washington football team is on a 4-game heater. They're on absolute fire. Taylor, I keep wanting to call him Tyler. I don't know why. Taylor Heineke has earned himself a cool $500,000 in incentives and bonuses over the last 4 weeks, which is awesome and good for him. You know, golf clap all around. Absolutely, I'm very, very, very happy for him. But FP, I mean, this is the biggest game of the season, and I don't like to use – I feel like sometimes we use the words must win, and it feels a little empty. But this is as close to must win as the football team's got. Now, can they afford to lose, to drop the game or lose the game and still be competitive? Yes, mathematically they can. But in reality, if they want to challenge for the NFC East, they're going to have to get this game. They're going to have to get at least one of two against the Cowboys, more likely this one than the next one. But the Cowboys have been, I mean, they're an interesting team. You know, early in the season, I think all of us were really impressed with their defense. The defense has kind of fallen off a bit. You know, there's been weeks where we look at that team and say, my goodness, who do you pick? Who are you going to cover, right? I mean, there's offensive weapons everywhere, from Cooper. Now they've got Gallup back. Pollard is playing amazing. I mean, there's so many offensive weapons. But the Washington football team has been playing some pretty defense. Some pretty good defense the last couple of weeks. So, you know, this is a big game. I mean, there's really no other way around it. And we, you know, here, like Dallas week still means something to me. And I know that a lot of people don't care, and a lot of the newer fans don't really understand what that means. But that clip, that opening clip that I just played, that we just heard, you know, RFK used to literally shake up and down. Shake. Yeah. People wanted Dallas. In the early years of FedEx, it was kind of like that as well. And for a while there, you know, 100,000 people in FedEx Field, and it was loud, and people wanted this game. Now, we know that Dallas doesn't get up for DC the way DC gets up for Dallas, but you know what? You know, that's how it falls sometimes. I mean, the rivalry isn't really what it is, but to me, this still means something. And the fact that they're on a 4-game win streak at 6-6, chasing the Cowboys in the division, it's a huge game. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, and I mean, really, when you think about it, this rivalry for the last few years, while Dallas hasn't really come up for it the way that the Washington fans have, the last few years, the games have been important, whether it being spoiler for Dallas, whether it be our wild card aspirations, whatever. The games, I mean, probably since the Colt McCoy Thanksgiving miracle, those have kind of been all substantial games. There's never really been a Dallas Cowboys Washington football matchup that hasn't had some sort of major implication in the playoff race. And this Sunday, probably the biggest, because we're both competing for the East. We're both competing for a playoff spot. We're both, I mean, Dallas has the edge, but like you said, this Dallas team's shaky, right? First game of the year, they dropped to the Buccaneers. We beat the Buccaneers. We dropped one to the Saints, but a much healthier, more potent Jameis Winston, Alvin Kamara Saints. Yuck. And the Cowboys looked really terrible against a very battered and bruised Saints team. And I mean,
Raiders
again,
too.
December,
I mean, the Raiders went into Dallas. Too. Yeah, Raiders went into Dallas and beat the Cowboys. I think that was an overtime game, if I'm not mistaken, a Thursday night a couple weeks ago, right? Right. Was that Thanksgiving? I think that was Thanksgiving.
That was Thanksgiving, correct.
You know, and we saw what the football team did, obviously, in Vegas. You know, the Broncos beat the Cowboys. The Broncos also beat the football team. So, you know, I think on paper it stacks up a lot closer than people want to admit. You know, everywhere I've looked over the last couple of days, everyone's on Dallas, and rightfully so. They're right now the best team in the NFC East. They, without doubt, without question, have the the best offensive weapons at their disposal.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, I don't know how you can challenge that. I know Zeke is kind of a one-trick pony, but Pollard is an animal. I mean, catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, he took 160 yards.
I mean,
this past
really
Sunday.
just have to really just have to go position by position and say, are we better or worse? I mean, Gibson has more rushing yards than their running backs, right? I would take Terry McLaurin over Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. I'm not saying that they don't have the better receiver. Their complement is better. Yeah. But I would take
They
Terry
got us a
over
tight
any
end
of those
also.
guys.
I think their offensive line. I mean, our offensive line has been amazing. I mean, look, we got Stevie to go full 180 and basically praise the offensive line here in DC, right?
That's saying something.
Like
That's
there's a lot of positives, and I don't want to. I mean, there are many reasons why the football team can and may win this game, but I'm just saying there's more reasons why the Cowboys should win this game, right?
Right.
The Cowboys.
And his name is Dak.
Yeah,
I mean, when you come down to the nuts and bolts. This game is Dak Prescott versus Heineke. That's the end of this discussion. I mean, and that's all it is. That's what this game is essentially going to prove. Can the Washington football team throw up some great passes, put up more than 20 points, and kind of keep up with this Dallas offense? Because you know for sure Dallas is going to stack the box. They're going to try to make us one-dimensional. They're going to try to swallow up Gibson, and they're going to dare Heineke to beat him with his arm. And that's essentially, that's dangerous. I mean, before we established ourselves as a run first, smash them in the mouth identity of a team, we were struggling. Those were the 4 games that we were struggling before kind of Gibson took over. So Dallas is really going to challenge the
defense is also playing
game.
better, you know. And
they are.
And I think, you know, at some point we have to talk about the laundry list, the long list of injuries and other things that are you know, going to impact this game on both sides of the ball, but most notably for Washington. You know, I do want to just kind of take a step here and go a little bit wider. The Cowboys have been, you know, flirting with the top 5, top 6 team on and off. Every week we do this, right? Every Wednesday we come together and we do, you know, the top 5 and the low 5 around the league. We do Ron quotes. Like, it's been consistent here for 14 weeks. The Cowboys have always, they've been consistently kind of flirting in that 6-7 range. At one point they peaked, I think, into my top 5. You know, they're firmly outside of it at this point. You know, and I do want to just take a step back. We'll come back to this game. We actually have a special guest that's going to join us in a little bit. Shelly is a super fan through and through. She's awesome. I've gotten to know her a little bit over the past couple of weeks and months. She's super active on social media. She hosts these awesome Twitter spaces for fans to come in, and I'm always in there and probably talking more than I should, but she's going to come and join us, FP, and talk and preview this game a little bit more. But for just a few minutes here, I want to take a step back and look at the league at large. The Cowboys, like, if you were going to pick a team to be right now, I think you would want to be the football team as opposed to the Cowboys, right? One is chasing, where one is maybe sliding just a little bit. The Cowboys, you look at them holistically, Zeke doesn't look like the Zeke that came into the league. You know, Dak has looked amazing in certain games and has looked very average in other games. That offensive line, the penalties are mounting every week. It seems like they're struggling to just to stand still until the ball is snapped. So some of these things, you know, happen. Some of it is fluky, no big deal. They're going to work through that. The defense has been consistent. I mean, and you know, Joe V will be on the show in the second half here to talk about fantasy stuff. But I've been riding the Cowboys defense, and I hate that. Like, I hate when I have NFC East players on my random fantasy teams. But the defense has been pretty consistent, and this defense, like you said, they should be okay the rest of the way. They get the Washingtons twice. They get the Eagles, I think, still 2 times, and the Giants once. So, like, they're going to see a bunch of these teams in the NFC. It's really interesting how the NFC East basically ends the year playing each other a zillion times, like round robin style. So, you know, with the exception of the Giants, the Eagles are still alive, even though no one really thinks that they're that good. Obviously, Washington is still alive, and the Cowboys are kind of in the driver's seat. But holistically around the league, there's a lot of teams that are just better. You know, and all of a sudden, you know, and look at Monday night. I mean, I watched every play of Monday night this past week, the Patriots at the Bills, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I literally, like, you know, and there's a lot of noise this week about, you know, how can Belichick be this good basically 2 years or a year and a half removed from Brady. Well, he's got a system in place, and it just shows you like what stability at the leadership level can do for a franchise.
Well-oiled machine.
Even in Pittsburgh, where there's rumors now of potentially, this is Big Ben's last season, and it sucks to see him kind of fall apart here at the end. But that franchise is going to be okay as well. They've got solid ownership, and the coach isn't going anywhere. So you look at Belichick and what he's got in Mac Jones. They threw the ball 3 times. 3.
Incredible.
And they won that game, and it wasn't close. Incredible.
No.
Like, it's incredible. I mean, what were you thinking watching that game? Because I saw the swirling winds in our chat. Like we put a substantial amount of cash on the under once we saw the pregame just craziness. Like, yeah, if that line was 39, take the under. If it was 25,
right,
take the under. Like, no matter what. But what did you think actually watching that game? How are the Patriots? I mean, let me ask you it this way: do the Patriots belong in the top 5 right now, or maybe higher? Maybe are they a top 3 team right now in the league?
Top 3 might be a stretch just because I'm really bullish on the Cardinals, the Packers, and sadly still the Bucks. But I mean, that kind of comes down to what I was thinking the whole time. I'm watching this game, and I'm like, Tom Brady last year wins the Super Bowl. This year, very, very, very possible, Bill Belichick wins Coach of the Year. I mean, it's insane that these two guys split up, have essentially quickly proven, no, we were both amazing, and that's why we had the dynasty. One didn't carry the other. And that's essentially all you see. For the fact that Belichick is just like, you know what, 0 run game. He basically came out and just said 0 run game or 0 pass game, and we're just going to dominate, and they did. And it was incredible to see. That was like 1970s football. You don't see that anymore.
Well, and the Bills were rightfully so. I mean, the boys that we did that pod with many weeks ago when we were previewing the Bills game, they were melting down. They were like, you could have put 15 guys in the box and you weren't going to stop the Patriots, which is incredible. It's incredible to think that in the modern NFL,
O-line's always been strong, right?
But in the modern, I mean, you just don't expect, and the Bills rightfully so. They were embarrassed, and the Bills, the wheels just have completely come off there. I mean, it's a little frightening, actually, how quickly they've gone from contender to less than contender. It's just, I don't know. Something's going on there. And, yeah, exactly. I mean, the entire league is wide open, right? But especially in the AFC, I mean, you had the Chiefs kind of start and stop. Like, everyone was on the Bills. You had the Titans obviously lose Derrick Henry. Like, everything was lining up for the Bills to be that team, and they get run on 5,000 times, can't stop it. I mean, by a Patriot team that basically said, we're going to show you that, like, not only are we going to, like, beat the snot out of you, we're going to embarrass you in your building after your fans get beat up by the wind. Like, it was just a perfect, like, Bill Belichick type of game, But
yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm going to just, like, for me, I've got them, I agree with you. I've got them at 4, right? I don't think they are better than, I'll give you my list. I've got the Chiefs at 5, back from the dead. I think the Chiefs are surging, and I think they're finding their footing, and I think the defense never has to be spectacular in Kansas City, but it's got to be better than what it was, and right now it's improving, right? Very similar to what we're seeing here in Washington. They're just playing better overall. So I've got the Chiefs at 5. The Patriots I've got at 4. I could argue that they belong ahead of the Bucks at 3, and then the Cardinals for me are still at 2, and Packers are largely unchanged for me from last week. The Packers defense, I mean, it pains me to say it, but Joe Barry's he's doing something right there at the moment. I mean, that team they look better. I mean, and the Packers I think are the team to beat. And Aaron Rodgers, I think he deserves some MVP consideration. I don't think he'll get it. I think the blue check marks and the cancel mob is going to make sure that he's not considered, given the scafu over his fake vaccination and COVID and all that other stuff. But, that's kind of my top 5. Packers, Cardinals, 1, 2, debatable which way you want to put them. And then the Bucks and the Pats, Chiefs, and then everybody else. The Rams, the Ravens. I'm not a believer in the Ravens. I think they look terrible. I mean, Lamar just seems like something is wrong there as well. I don't know. Is your top 5 different than mine?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have Cardinals over Packers. So 1, 2, Cardinals, Packers. Cardinals are they're just not losing, and when they do win, they put up points, and they're just now back to fully healthy. I don't think unless they go into a cold Lambeau Field, if something happens, I don't think anybody's stopping them, right? So Packers, again, this is where they shine. Those cold games, that's where Aaron Rodgers just kind of turns it on. And then after that, yeah, you kind of have to decide if you want Patriots or Buccaneers. And sadly, with the Antonio Brown drama and all the fake vaccine card stuff, I mean, the Buccaneers are going to struggle a little bit because he really did help that offense. But I mean, it's Tom Brady. Leonard Fournette's been running crazy. You still have
He's
Godwin.
been playing
you still have
like
Evans.
the college
I
version
mean,
of himself. He's
yeah,
looked
it's
great.
insane. He's Benjamin Buttoning the NFL, and it's just, yeah. I mean, you can't bet against him until you get burned by him. So you got to give it to him.
Well, and Gronk
But yeah,
is
and
out
then-
there. Gronk is hobbling all over the field, but he catches everything, right? He's a massive target, you know. And you know, we'll get to Logan Thomas here in DC in just a second. But I mean, what a loss that is for the football team. But just really quickly, I want to touch on the bottom five as well. Again, largely unchanged. One change in my bottom five: the Lions move ahead of the Jags. Congratulations to the Lions for getting that win. They are the best bad team. I mean, that I remember watching, you know, but the Jags are an absolute mess, and it looks like they have misfired on the coach. They have misfired. I think it's too soon to say, you know, regarding, you know, Trevor and the quarterback play. It's been spotty. I think he'll be fine long term, but it's clear that they have to make changes basically across the board. I mean, that is just a bad team. You know, and for anybody that's listening that says that DC is a bad team or that the football team is, you know, behind where they should be, maybe they're behind where they should be. At worst, the football team is an average team. The Jags are
but
a
at least
bad,
we're not.
bad team.
At least we're not this bad 5 years removed from AFC Championship game, right? Like they were there. They were up there 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I mean, it's kind of crazy that they hit it and then just came crashing right back down.
Yeah, I agree. You know, but on the topic, you know, I brought up Gronk here just a second ago. I mean, Gronk seems to be able to catch anything. Huge target for Brady, of course. You know, here in DC, we saw what Logan is able to do, and you know, that first touchdown catch on against Vegas this past Sunday. I made a comment. I said, you know, we're celebrating the touchdown, but he had to leap to get that ball.
Yes.
He was standing. He was literally by himself in the end zone, and he had to fly to get up. I mean, Taylor just sails so many passes. It's going to be tough for the football team to I mean, you can't replace him. And I mean, you're kind of back to where you started. He's done for the season. Fitzpatrick is done for the season. I think he officially went under the knife earlier this week as well. So that's you know, $10 million. So on average, what, $3 million per pass completion, I think, for him. I think he completed 3 of 6 or 3 of 8 or whatever it was. So
on that one.
You know, I think we may have seen the end of Fitzpatrick in the league. I mean, he's 38 if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this could be it for him, which stinks because, you know, I think anybody who's been watching, he's been around for 16, 17 seasons. Like, it's tough to see the old guys kind of leave like that. I mean, Fitzpatrick, he was always a serviceable quarterback, you know, and I kind of liken him to Big Ben in that regard. Like, he was never super mobile, but he could move. And the last couple of years, like, they don't move at all. I mean, Big Ben doesn't move at all, you know, so, you know, it's coming to an end. But there's, you know, the most important thing, I know there was somebody was put on the COVID list today. Who was put on the COVID list today? I saw that. I'm blanking all of a sudden. Montez. So he was eligible to return to practice, but he's hopefully it's a false positive, negative. I don't know.
It's the unvaccinated COVID list, 10 days out. He'll maybe be able to play for the Eagles, but he won't be able to practice before the Eagles. But I mean, thankfully on defense, you don't really need practice reps. You just need to be in shape.
Well, and the most important player that they got to get back is to me Landon Collins. I mean, Landon Collins has been, you know, and I said this on Sunday, and I'll continue to say it. He went from a liability on defense to, you know, indispensable. Like he literally, as playing as a free safety trying to cover, he was a huge liability. Playing as the big nickel or the Buffalo nickel up at the line, you know, stuffing the running backs, and doing basically just creating havoc in the box. You don't have another guy that can do it. Cam Curl's playing great, but they need Landon to come back, and hopefully we'll get some positive
news. You need him because Jamin Davis, I believe, is concussion protocol. Kaliki Hudson came in immediately. He's on IR after that Raiders game, and he was a stud on our special team, so that doubly hurts. But yeah, you're basically down to Cole Holcomb and some other random guy that we just brought up. Can't even tell you, his name.
And it's funny you mentioned Cole because, so we're going to, on the other side of the break here in a moment, we're going to bring in Shelly. Shelly is a huge Cole Holcomb fan, right? And this is probably the one area where I get more heat on Twitter and just, I'm not that big on Cole. Like, I appreciate what he's doing on the field. I think he's improving tremendously, game over game. I mean, he's looking better. But, man, he gets burned all the time in coverage. So I know it's not a hot take. It's just kind of what I see happening. But, we'll get her thoughts on it as well. But I think Landon is, I mean, if we can get Landon back, that's going to significantly impact, in a positive sense, the defense. But, we'll see. We'll see. Shelly's a longtime fan. I'm excited to get her take on it too. But let's do it on the other side of break. Let's take a quick break right here, FP, if that's okay. And on the other side, we'll come back. We'll bring in Shelly and we'll talk. We'll preview this football team matchup just a little bit more. And then after that, we'll have Joe V join us, help us pick some winners and losers, some sit-ems and start-ems as well. He helped me out big time last week. A lot of the advice he gave out was very, very good advice. Kirk rocked it for me. Kirk is on an absolute heater, so we'll bring him in and talk about that as well. So on the other side of the break, we'll be right back. His name is FP. My name is Joe, and we will have Shelly join us in just a few moments. All right, welcome back into the show. This is DTC, Defeating the Curse. My name is Joe. FP is on mic 2. And special guest Shelly. Shelly Jordan is joining the show. Shelly, thank you so much for making time. Thank you for coming on our very small, very humble show. But we appreciate you tremendously. And I, for one, I just have to say, I always appreciate that you invite me into the Twitter spaces that you host. For those that aren't familiar, Twitter basically has this feature where folks can fire up basically an audio format or an audio medium and then bring other people in from the Twitterverse and talk about any topic. And Shelly is the queen of Twitter. She's a super fan through and through, but no one does Twitter spaces like Shelly does Twitter spaces. So Shelly, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate you coming on. Uh-oh, we might have to do a mic check with Shelly. We'll give her a second here. Maybe she's on mute. FP, while she's, I think she's taking a look or trying to find her mic. I want to talk a little bit more about this football team matchup against Dallas, of course. So the expectation is that Dallas is, I think favored by 4 points, if I'm not mistaken. I think the line is at 4, if I'm not mistaken. Do you see it? Let me pull it up here and take a look at it.
Am I on?
Do you have any?
Hello?
Shelly, can you hear me? This is Joe.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Joe?
Yes. Welcome to the show, Shelly. Thanks for joining.
Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties there. Sorry, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, Shelly. So I know you're a lifelong Washington football team fan. Super fan through and through. FP and I are basically we're breaking down and kind of talking about this Dallas matchup. Obviously, it's the biggest matchup of the season so far for this team. The football team is coming in red hot. They're coming home at 4-4. I wish Dan and the folks in management would take a look and say, hey, we got all these seats. Maybe we can do a giveaway. I understand they don't want to just give away tickets or, discount the prices too much because it hurts their product
Obviously
as they're trying
not.
to sell it. But, I mean, you've been in that stadium when it's packed. And I think you've been in RFK as well when it's packed. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, what can we do as fans to fill that terrible, terrible FedEx Field?
Can you hear me? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. We'll get season tickets, I guess. That's the best way. Early.
There's
when
no
they're
more
not
wait
doing-
list.
Yeah. And I guess when they're not doing well, because after a 4-game win streak, forget about it because you can't really afford it. That was my mistake. I should have gotten the Dallas game earlier on. I don't admittedly go to a lot of games because I don't like FedEx. I'm going to be honest with you guys. FedEx is not my favorite stadium. I took my kids there when they were younger and had a horrible experience. They're older now. They're 22. I have twins. And so they're on their own with it. And it's a dog world, right? So my son goes with his girlfriend. Her family has season tickets. So we try to go to more games. I want to go to more games. but I don't like that stadium. I'm gonna be truthful here. It's just
Yeah,
not.
Honestly, Shelly, I'd be concerned if you said you did like that.
Yeah,
stadium,
nobody
so.
likes
Yeah.
FedEx. Nobody likes
Yeah,
FedEx.
I've gone to RFK, when I was younger, and it would rock, and you weren't lying there when you said it would shake. It would literally rock. We would get that stadium rocking. So that was a lot of fun.
Shelly, what do you expect to happen this week? I mean, Dallas obviously is coming into town. They need this win to maintain their lead in the NFC East. Washington's looking at them saying, we got to get one of these two to challenge for the NFC East. What do you expect to happen? I mean, there's a long list of injuries and unavailables for Washington. Most notably, obviously, Logan is out for the season. Landon is still TBD. It looks like Jamin is not going to be playing or he's in concussion protocol. So there's a lot of things kind of swirling from an injury perspective, but Taylor's playing great. I think right now, for the month of November, starting in the month of November, he's the 5th highest ranked quarterback in QBR. His play has been consistent, even though it's erratic, but he's been consistent. What do you expect to happen on Sunday?
I mean, I got to tell you guys, they concern me when they play Dallas at home, because I feel like we always play Dallas better in Dallas. So with that said, all of our injuries, that concerns me. We're really going to need Bates to step up at tight end. I really wish I would feel a lot better about this game if we had, Logan. It's just so sad and unfortunate that he got hurt, and in the manner that he got hurt. But Dallas, of course, on their side of the ball, on paper, it looks better. They're just overall stacked better, and they don't have all the injuries that we have. So with that said, on paper, it looks like Dallas should win this game. It does look like they should win this game. Can we, for us to get a 5-game win streak, guys, I don't know the last time
Miracles. It's
a
miracle. It would be a miracle.
It would be a miracle. It would be a miracle. I'm here for it. Hey, let's do it. But I don't know. A lot of things would have to happen. Taylor's got to bring down some of those balls. They're just so high. And Terry, Terry's going to be at least double covered.
It'll be a tall task for sure. I mean, they're gonna have to.
It's going to be a huge task.
Yeah, they're going to have to be creative. I think Antonio Gibson is going to be their key. I think if they're able to dominate, control the time of possession, same as it's been for several weeks now. Control the time of possession. Don't fumble the ball. Don't turn it over. Grind out some tough yards, especially convert third downs. That's an area where the defense has been much better at stopping teams from converting, but the offense deserves a lot of credit as well. I mean, they've done a really good job converting, over 50% of their third down opportunities, where they weren't doing that at all earlier in the season. Shelly, one of the things that I've encountered in the fan interactions and the Twitter forum, the Twitter spaces that you've had pre and post game, is the general feeling of fans that come into those spaces and they kind of vent or just talk about things. It seems like a lot of people very much still support the team, but not the owner. And I think I'm curious if there's a way to, you can't undo it unless Dan obviously sells the team, but how much of this do you sense like day in and day out? Because again, you're super active on Twitter. Your following is huge. The Twitter spaces, every time I jump in there, it's a lot of people saying, we want to support the team, but we can't because of Dan, or we don't support Dan. Is that like just a consistent thing that you've seen now over, weeks and months and years?
Yeah, well, when I started the Twitter spaces, it started out as therapy because, as you guys know, we weren't doing well early in the season. So we started that as therapy. We all got on there because we were literally so miserable as fans. And then the team started winning and we turned it around. So it just turned into something else. But yes, we have all this off the field, stuff going on. And of course I support the women to release the report and all that stuff with Congress and all that. But yeah, it's really hard. It's really difficult to, we've had 20 plus years under Dan, and it's difficult to make all the changes in the front office, but still have the owner there, and it's hard to, keep the faith that he won't just, have a knee-jerk reaction and fire somebody, or you know what I mean? So because he's been known to do that in the past. So there's a lot of faith involved, and it's difficult to continually do that as fans because we know what he's like. And
yeah, I mean, even last week, Shelly, I mean, one of the spaces you hosted, the RG3 book came up, and I know,
right.
I got a little heated about it because I think at this point, RG3 has always been about his own brand, and he can't get out of his own way. And some of the guests that you had in that forum said the same. Like, this guy just for whatever reason can't get out of his own way. And I'm really curious to see how the league is going to handle what is or isn't in RG3's book, and how much, I personally don't think there is a book. I don't think he'll ever release a book. I think it was just another tactic for him to stay relevant and attached to the team, because 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to that, when they're this quarterback talk, he's tweeting at Scott Turner and at the team like, I'm available, I know the offense, blah blah blah. A couple weeks later, no one's talking about him or to him or around him, and now he's surviving Washington. And there's just something that makes me very uncomfortable about him in particular writing this book. Everyone should speak their truth. It's not an attempt to silence him, but he was involved in some ugliness himself. So I don't know what he intends to happen with the book. I'm just, I'm curious, like, what was the overall feeling in that, coming out of that? Like, do you actually expect that a book will be released, Shelley?
I think, yeah, he's a strange character, isn't he? I think there is a book. It's been written. Actually, he collaborated with a Gary Myers or something. I'd have to look it up, but I did notice that it was written. I'm following the guy that he collaborated with because I'm with you. I'm trying to figure all this out as well. So there is a book. Will it be released? That's the question, because I know there are people that are trying to stop it. So we have till August 2022 to see if it will be released. I do think that he has some kind of sexual harassment story of his own that he is saying that occurred, that he didn't clarify that. So his communication was not well when he first came out with this, because he sounded like he was trying to piggyback off of the women, right? And so
I saw that some of the women reached out to him and said, if these are real claims,
yes,
you should have joined us.
Right. It was very confusing when he first, brought up the book, because he was very kind of cloak and dagger with it, I thought, because it seemed like he was kind of piggybacking off the women, because he did not clarify that it was his own personal story. And we really had to it was like pulling teeth to get, to
in recent
the
days
nuts
as
and
well.
bolts of it.
And there's a couple different shows, including LeVar Arrington's show, where Fred Smoot was on and basically just ripped. I mean, absolutely ripped RG3.
I know. I get it. It doesn't. I want to caution, and I get LeVar, I get Smoot, I get what they're saying, but I want to caution everybody. We don't know the story yet, and that's just the only thing that makes me caution, because we don't know, what he's going to say. And I have no idea what the story is. My only thing is, I hope it's bad enough to get Dan out of Washington. Like, get him out. But that would tick me off. If it's something bad enough to get Dan out, then he should have came forward a long time ago. Then why are you trying to get a job like a month and a half ago?
Exactly.
So it just is mind-boggling to me. So will it happen? I don't know. Who knows, Joe? I don't know.
I think the story is the reason why we're hearing of this book now is I think RG3 finally made peace that he's no longer going to play in this league. So let's go ahead and burn our bridges. Let's just do the book.
Right.
But if that's the case, FP, why drag your feet for a year? Like, if even then, like, it's so disingenuous to say, hey, I got this big thing and I'm going to tell you in 11 months.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it makes no sense to me. And I'm not saying that he doesn't truly have something that he wants to share and get off his chest. But to me, it looked like he tried to piggyback off, just as Shelly was saying, and then he saw that kind of burned him a little bit. So then he almost shifted courses, and he's like, no, wait, I meant about me. And everyone's like, really? And he's like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not saying he doesn't, but to me, it sounds like he doesn't. And it was just kind of a course correction, and now he's kind of backed into a corner.
Oh no, I
where
think
he has
there's
to-
definitely a story, guys. I think there's definitely a story. I think there's definitely something there because he's doubled down on it. And there's definitely something there. I've gone to his Twitter page and his wife's Twitter page. So they've both doubled down that there's something there. And we don't know what the story is. And that's why I've cautioned everybody to be careful. Now, I don't particularly like the way the guy has handled this and how he's dealt with it either. So, but if there's an actual sexual harassment story there, and depending on the details, I'm not gonna like call him a sissy like LeVar is and stuff like that, because
Well, I mean,
I just can't do it.
Smoot was calling him. Smoot basically said it's not possible because he's so ugly. I mean, he went after him really,
Well, that's,
really hard.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
it.
So-
I mean, they're guys. Let them do it. I mean, let them go in on him. And I can't do that just because,
Well,
I'm
I don't
a
want to do
woman.
that. I don't think anybody should be subjected
I
to
don't
that.
think
But at the
anybody
same
should
time,
be
if
subjected to that either.
if
But
you've got
I'm
something,
a woman, and I think I've experienced sexual harassment in the workplace, and I think I'm not as naive as some of these other people to think that sexual harassment can befall a woman or a man, and it can be male or female. So it can happen, and I think
Absolutely.
we should all be cautious and just wait
well,
and
and
see.
supportive. But at some point, RG3 is going to have to say something, and it can't just be, if it. The biggest disservice he can do to himself is at this point is to have no proof, right? If he's got proof, then of course everyone's going to support him. The problem is, I don't think he has anything, because if he did, he would have come forward we'll see. Time will tell.
I just wish you would do a sit down interview, and if you got receipts, then show them, and let's see it. Let's
Yes.
get down to the nuts and bolts of this thing. Just do it. Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you waiting for somebody to shut you down?
Well,
I'm
and
with you,
that's the
Shelley.
question: is his focus getting the truth out, or is his focus his book making money? Because if his focus is getting the truth out, you do the sit down, you let it all air out, and you be like, I'll go into more depth in my book. But if it's just, hey, buy my book to find out this secret, I mean, it's a little tabloidy. Not to say that there isn't truth there.
It feels a lot like the Brady Belichick book last year, right? Like that was basically, everything was spun around this idea that they didn't meet when Brady left, right? They didn't meet in person, but and they wrote a whole book around, what amounted to like a tweet, basically. So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we are. Shelly, one last question for you. We'll get you out on this. Give us a score prediction for Sunday. Who you got winning, and what's the score?
Oh man, I'm horrible at this. My
Go
gut
full
is
homer.
saying-
That's what we do.
I can't. But I'm hoping it's going to be reverse psychology, and it will just go the other way. My gut's telling me Dallas is going to win, and I think it's going to be like 31-17.
Yikes.
Ooh, that score sounds so
That
realistic. It
stings,
hurts.
Shelly. That stings my core. Okay.
Hey, but I'm hoping it goes the other way. So
So it's an emotional hedge. I got it.
Got it.
yeah. But
Shelly, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on the show.
hey,
If you,
anytime, guys.
we would
I'm
love
glad
to
it
have you
worked
back
out.
on in the future. Thank you very, very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
FP, on the other side of this, let's bring in our buddy Joey V. I don't think he likes when I call him Joey, so we'll just call him Joe. Joe V on the other side of the break. We're going to get into some fantasy do's and don'ts. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. This is DTC. My name is Joe. His name is FP. And Joe V joins us. Joe, you're becoming a show regular 2 Wednesdays in a row.
I know. I'm honored. Absolutely honored. And if you want to call me Joey, I'll allow it.
Listen, Joey hits a special, like it hits. There's only a few people in the world that I let call me Joey. My wife is not one of them. So if you want to, if you're okay with me calling you Joey, I'll call you Joey because Joey V just rolls off the tongue.
Well, you're the alpha Joe here, so you maintain Joe, and I'll be Joey. I mean, I think it's only fair.
As you like, but look, I got to start with some positives here. You gave me some incredible advice last week, so I'm going to go ahead and steal this segment and just get some advice from myself before we turn it over to FP, and then I got a whole bunch. There's a bunch of stuff coming in from the guys in my fantasy league that want questions answered too. But so I have a quarterback conundrum here. Okay, I got Rodgers and I have Cousins, and I'm leaning towards Rodgers.
Ooh.
Rodgers is against the Bears. Obviously, I never feel good about playing anyone on a Thursday night game. It's Kirk, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Vikings at Ravens tomorrow. FP, I think I'll double check.
Steelers.
But was it Steelers? Thank you, Steelers.
Vikings,
Who do I start?
Vikings home against Steelers. I honestly, you have to go Rodgers. Rodgers is the guy. He's proven it, and to say that he dominates the Chicago Bears is an understatement.
I think his words are, "I
you.
fucking own you." If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
I think that's the exact quote. Quote Aaron.
This is full on when Pedro Martinez called the Yankees his daddy. It's that level of domination that you really can't go elsewhere as good as Kirk Cousins has been. Now that being said, I will hedge what I just said by saying that the Bears are so bad this year that you do run the risk of falling into the type of game script where maybe in the second half you're looking at an Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon kind of game.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it going. I mean, it's Aaron bleeping Rodgers, and I feel like you just got to ride him there all the way to the championship.
Okay,
I think it's a
talk to me about
minimum.
Hold on, FP. I got one more, so I can get this lineup in before. I got Zach Ertz and I got Dalton Schultz. Who am I starting at tight end?
Oh,
Got Zach
man.
Ertz against the Rams, and obviously Schultz is coming to Washington.
I mean, Washington's. I'm
playing against Dak for what it's worth.
You're playing against Dak. Okay, so I'm a big fan of that. It doesn't always work. It isn't an absolute, but when it's one-on-one, one team versus the other team, and you can take that quarterback's points away by taking who he's throwing to, it can only work to your advantage. Also, and sorry to say it, although it has been better in recent weeks, Washington football team's secondary has been very beatable all season long. So you put Dalton Schultz in that situation, there's a good chance he might be seeing pay dirt. You also have to factor in too, Cowboys offense. Cowboys, Dak throws the ball everywhere. So the one thing that's kind of been the constant throughout the season is it's either going to be a CD Lamb game or an Amari Cooper game. But regardless of who he's throwing the ball to, that's a wide receiver, he's throwing to Dalton Schultz no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going with Dalton in that one. FP,
Not to mention the Washington defense is weak against tight ends.
very leaky. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, my team somehow crept back into the playoff running, even though I lost last week.
Hey, welcome back.
I just need to know. Welcome back. I just need to know, should I start Kamara? It's killing me that he's not getting me points and that he's injured.
Yeah.
I need to know if I should start Kamara. I also have Hunt on my bench. I don't know if the Hunt Chubb 1-2 punch is ever coming back. My running back room is terrible. All I have is Connor, and then I'm Kamara, Hunt that are doing nothing for me.
But Kamara has done effectively nothing.
Started the season, he was great for me, and then he died. He died with Winston.
Is he in DK Metcalf territory, Joe? Is it time to just cut?
It might be.
I think I'm still in on DK. He showed me a little something last week. It wasn't the breakout game that you would hope for with him, but I think it's just one of those situations where Russell Wilson is getting back to 100%, and DK Metcalf is still like an all-world receiver. Now, as far as FP's running back conundrum is concerned, Okay, so obviously you're going up against the Jets. If you're Kamara
Right.
and the Saints, you like that matchup. However, Taysom Hill, when Taysom Hill has been the starter and Alvin Kamara has been healthy, so this is dating back to last year. Alvin Kamara had his worst production as a starter for the Saints.
Oh, that hurts.
It's he I know he has a blind spot for those little screens that makes Kamara a first round pick.
Yeah.
Now with Kareem Hunt, I don't think that the hub
Chubb
Chubb
and Hunt.
split. I don't think that's over by any stretch. I think that their running attack is at its best when they're both healthy.
both
They
there,
need the other one to thrive. Now, Kareem Hunt does have the unfortunate, situation of going up against Baltimore, so that stinks. But I wouldn't look to 2 weeks ago as what you should expect from Kareem Hunt, because going into that game, Kareem Hunt was told by his coaching staff that it was going to be, we were going to sprinkle you in, we were going to get you some work before the bye week, just so we know where you're at. We're not going to push you too hard. That's why he didn't even play the last couple of drives of the game, and people were worried that he was hurt, that he re-aggravated his injury and all that. And no, they were just playing it safe, which you consider that, and then you had a full week off. Matchup, not totally in your favor, but it's not a bad spot to start.
We got
Really
this
not.
one coming in from Peter K. He's asking. He's got to start 2 of 3: Lockett, Judy, and Landry. 2 of 3. You got
Oh,
Lockett.
man.
Lockett is at Houston. Judy is home for the Lions. And then where's Jarvis? He is versus Baltimore. So home for Baltimore. So 2 of 3.
I'm going Lockett and Judy here. Both good matchups. And honestly, Jarvis Landry, to me, I'm out. Jarvis Landry is on my never draft again list. I had him pegged as like a nice high floor guy, and I think he's still talented. I just don't think that Baker Mayfield is that good of a quarterback and that consistent of a quarterback to have him be like that rock for him. So I would not start Landry this week.
Okay, we got another one coming in here. What do I do with Saquon? Do I sit him instead and play James Robinson instead? I think yes, but
Yeah. You're looking at two guys that went in the first 3 rounds that just look, Saquon more so, and it pains me as a Giants fan. He just is not the same guy. He's not what the Giants are paying for. He's not what you drafted in your fantasy drafts. He's just not. And it's part of it's got to be his injury. His knee just isn't the same. And the other side of that too is that every single wide receiver on the Giants is hurt, and so is Daniel Jones. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist on defense to figure out where they're going to be sending the ball. James Robinson, bad team, only target, kind of the same situation where you know what to expect here. Now, James Robinson's matchup is a little bit more friendly, I would say. So I would probably lean James Robinson at this point, which is crazy to me because 6 weeks ago I would have called me crazy.
so this might not actually be a real question, but 2 of 3: Fournette, Jacobs, and Zeke.
Whoever's got that team,
Wow.
good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Maybe it's like one of those 8-team leagues.
Who's
You
playing in an
probably-
8-team league, Joe? That's not even a real league. 8 teams.
You got to go Jacobs and Zeke here. I love
Really?
Fournette. I think, yeah, Jacobs. So now that Kenyon Drake is out for the year, and last week, Josh Jacobs had his best game that I've ever seen him play in the passing game. 9 targets, 9 catches, not a ton of yards, but he's been known as the guy that can't catch balls. Well, now they've got no choice. They've got to be passing the ball to him. Zeke has not looked great, but I don't like the matchup for Tampa Bay going up against Buffalo. I don't. I know.
You think Buffalo has something left? I mean, Buffalo.
I think after Monday night's performance,
soul crushing
that
loss.
defense is gonna put all their effort into showing that they won't get rushed all over.
But will it work?
But then Fournette could just beat them in the flats and then just run all over them that way. So.
Oh yeah, listen, Fournette is next year. You're going to see Fournette make his way back up to the first couple of rounds of the draft for sure. And I don't know how people missed it the first time, myself included. Clearly, the best running back in that system on a perennial playoff team until Tom Brady's gone. I don't know how. I know he's up there in terms of running back age at like 26 or 27. But how did so many people sleep on him to where he was going in the 7th and 8th round? I mean, the guy's putting up 30 points almost every week.
Yeah. I got one for you, and it hits on Sunday a little bit. I, like Joe, was riding the Cowboys defense all year. I, like Joe, hate rooting for my fantasy defense against my actual team. So the question is, should I drop that Cowboys defense over Washington for...
Yes, because your fandom is more important.
Denver defense over Detroit.
Oh, 100% Denver defense. 100%.
Yeah, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That it makes all the sense in the world. And listen, Dallas's defense is good, but the Washington football team has a pretty dynamic offense. I mean, I know they've got a lot of injuries right now, but I don't see the football team having a hard time moving the ball against anybody right now.
Yeah, but my superstition makes it. My superstition hurts because if I drop Dallas defense,
I was in the same spot. I picked up the Green Bay
55.
Yeah. No, I picked up the Green Bay defense just because I cannot start the Cowboys against my own team. I just can't do it. I can't.
Yeah.
Well, Green Bay's another good choice this week too, though. Green Bay's another great choice because they've got the Bears and they stink, and I think Fields is starting. But I mean, really, like at this point, it's probably going to be a mismatch and a blowout.
There's a question coming in here, Joe, on Facebook from a female listener, and we don't get many of those. This is kind of cool. Pick a quarterback. Pick my starting quarterback: Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford.
I mean, you have to go Kyler. I mean, either way, you're going to have a Monday night finish, so you're in a good spot because you're going to probably have last dibs depending on who your opponent has. I think you have to go Kyler Murray here. Cardinals are home. Cardinals have more weapons. And, even though Kyler spreads the ball around, he gets to reap the reward for all of that. So
here's another one. Same person's asking follow-up question. Half-point PPR, Odell Beckham Jr. or Emmanuel Sanders?
I'm going Odell Beckham. Anyone that has Odell Beckham, anyone that held on to him all year is in a great spot with him. With Robert Woods hurt, Odell is clearly above Van Jefferson in the depth chart for the Rams. That means he's the number 2 behind Cooper Kupp. And since he's, aside from that first game that was kind of a dud for Odell Beckham, he's looked pretty good. Matt Stafford hasn't had a hard time finding him, so I would have. And if you've got a Odell Beckham from Stafford connection, that'd be nice. The only thing that would make that better is having Kyler Murray instead of Stafford.
Okay. So, Joe, last week you gave us a couple sleepers, a couple players to kind of go out and target if they were available, waiver wire ads. The players that we can go pick up that maybe are widely available. Anything catch your eye? Anything that came out of Sunday's games that made you think maybe? And my last question after that one is what do we do with Derrick Henry for those of us that have held on to him? Do we think he's actually going to be at this point? Do we hold out hope that he will help us in the potential final playoff round or championship game, or do we cut him loose and make space for someone else?
I would cut him loose. If there hasn't been any talk about Derrick Henry for about 2 or 3 weeks, and if you're not hearing anything, you're not hearing how the surgery's going, you're probably they may get him back for the actual NFL playoffs if they make it deep into January. That could be a different story. I don't think that he'll be healthy enough to come back for week 17. Now, as far as some names that are out there, these names all come from some poorly timed injuries. So I'll give you two. I'll give you two guys on the Vikings, and then I'll give you two guys on the 49ers.
All right, hit me. I'm gonna go check and see if they're available on the waiver.
Adam Thielen's out this week with a high ankle sprain. It could be this week. It could be multiple weeks, but we know right now it's just this week, and they're playing Thursday. Two names: tight end Tyler Conklin is definitely going to see an uptick in targets with Thielen out, and Thielen's replacement on the depth chart, at least for now, is going to be KJ Osborne, who's had some big games even with Thielen and Jefferson healthy, but now you have one less mouth to feed there. And with Thielen being one of the most prolific end zone targets, Kirk Cousins is going to have to spread the ball around more. And then the other two names, actually three names, because today Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, both on the Chargers, were placed on the COVID list. So it remains to be seen if we're going to see them this weekend. If they are out, Joshua Palmer, Andre Roberts, Jalen Guyton are below them on the depth chart for the Chargers. And I'll actually give you one more too, because this is the time. Week 14, it's hysteria for fantasy football players. It's insanity trying to get into the playoffs. So Joe Mixon was sick today. Joe Mixon missed practice, and he's probably going to start. But Samaje Perine, who's his backup, if he goes, is a surefire bell cow number one. And on the 49ers, you've got Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson, both nursing injuries. So if that stays the same, and that looks more like a 50-50 that they might not play, then JaMychal Hasty is your number one for that game.
Any thoughts on Michael Gallup and how he fits in that Dallas offense down the stretch? I mean, he looked great last week.
Michael Gallup is the same player as Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You're going to see him hanging on your waiver wire all season long. He's a nice name. Every fifth game, he puts up a nice stat line, gets a lot of targets, and has sees like 85% of snaps, and you're like, oh, maybe he's finally arrived. And then you get a month of not.
Then
really,
you add him to your team, and he does nothing.
And it always times out that way, Joe. Every single time.
FP, anything else for Joe? I got one more to close this out, but after you.
Well, now after all the news about the Chargers, am I screwed having Herbert as my quarterback? And should I be looking?
Damn, that was my question. What do we do with Herbie? What do we do with Herbie?
What happens now?
Herbie took a big step back this year. And I mean, he hasn't been terrible, but he has not been what you had hoped for going into the season after what you saw last year in his rookie year. He's putting up 50 fantasy points, every other week for a little while last year. And he's come back down to earth, as I guess most people would expect. And for as vital as Keenan Allen and Mike Williams might be to that offense.
I mean, that's the whole offense.
They're at home against the New York Giants.
It's true.
And that's my I take solace in that because I know that it's not going to end well for the Giants. And therefore, that's more of an opportunity for Justin Herbert to do his thing.
Well, Joe, we appreciate your time as always. I appreciate the insight. You helped me win in 2 of 3 leagues last week. I'm going to count my wife's team. My wife and I were playing each other, and she smoked me on your advice. So,
no.
Thank you for that. Also, that was great. She was very
you're
excited.
Welcome, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was very excited, and she was texting me during the segment here saying like make sure Joe knows that I beat you because he gave me good advice. So
that means
thanks, Joe.
That means his wife sent in questions and Joe just didn't ask you.
I will not let her. Yeah, they're being screened. They didn't make it through the screening. Sorry. But Joe, the host of Go With Your Gut, Joe Vitruba. Thank you again, Joe, for coming on, making time for us. I look forward to this segment. I'm not going to put you on the spot the same way I did last week, but we will definitely talk to you again next week, right?
Yeah, for sure. Good luck this week, guys. Take care.
Hopefully I'm in the playoffs.
Joe. FP, how did you fare in fantasy last week?
Oh, I did terrible. Actually, I think I lost by like
how is your FanDuel account looking these
points.
days? How's your
FanDuel account
FanDuel
is looking
sportsbook?
So look, I need to give you all a tip on how to make the most money with FanDuel. It's all about first touchdown score when you're watching the game. As soon as you see that first drive start and you kind of get a vibe of how that offense is going to look, you place a bet and you're going to hit big.
You really think that's okay? All right.
Come on, I'm putting like $10 bets on Dallas Goedert to score the first touchdown against the Jets. $245 payout. It was easy to tell.
This past week,
it's so easy to tell.
Razzle, I forget where we were, but I was explaining to Razzle how to bet on soccer, right? And you use the roulette principle when you bet on soccer. You know, when you go to the roulette table, I mean, it's my, I don't know if there's a name for it. I'll just call it the stack methodology. Okay, like roulette's got 3 stacks. If you bet the same amount in 2 of the 3 stacks, 2 or 3 rows, okay, you've got a little bit under 66% chance of winning, because obviously it can go 0 or 00, but it's going to most likely hit. And it's the slowest growth model that can be extrapolated over time, right? So when you bet soccer, you bet the underdog and you bet the draw. Small bets or big bets, it doesn't matter. You only need one, right? Obviously, you need one of those to hit every once in a while. You'll make all your money back. Now, this is the catch-22. All of us reload our FanDuel accounts. Every single one of us, right? Nobody's cashing out. Nobody's cashing out anything.
I've only reloaded it twice. And
okay,
I'm up a lot.
Have you ever not reloaded it? Meaning, like, you've started, this is what I'm starting with, and then got it to a point where you're like, wow, I'm going to take this money out and buy something with it.
No.
Has that ever happened?
Of course not.
No.
No, you bet more recklessly the higher you get.
Yeah, and you know, a couple years ago, we were all complaining about the FanDuel and the DraftKings, like the never-ending, like, just onslaught of commercials. And now we have the MGM bet and win bet.
I'm sorry. If I see Drew Brees one more time get FetLife point
did
life,
Drew Brees like sign
off.
a thing where he only has one side of his face on TV?
What is the cut? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Where is it like a major, did something happen?
I mean, he's always had that thing, but it's never on TV now. Like when he was a football player, it was always on TV.
It's always just kind of.
Now it's never on TV. I don't know. There's also like Ben Affleck is doing commercials, and then that guy that I don't know his name is like on every bus everywhere I go. The win bet guy, like, yeah. I mean,
and now there's like Caesar's Sports Book and all that.
Yes,
I don't know.
But in person, but Maryland is getting what Virginia's had on Friday. Did you know that?
What?
So like people in Maryland, like the in-person betting or the live betting in Maryland wasn't available, but now it'll be available. So everyone's all excited. Yeah. So we'll see what the sportsbook does at MGM starting at Friday at midnight. It'll be interesting.
Anyway, we'll know this show has made it once we can do a show at Sportsbook, pretending like we're the big wigs.
We can do it. Maybe. We used to do live shows all the time. We were at Glory Days.
Yeah.
We packed Glory. Remember we packed Glory Days, baby?
We did pack Glory Days. I could use some Glory wings.
No one can ever take that away from us. If you don't know what we're talking about, that's a little inside baseball. But if you go on our Facebook page, you will see pictures from one of our live events where we took the show. All 4 of us, we took the show on the road and we watched, I think it was Alex
Smith,
have
been Dallas
the Chief.
week.
No, it was the Chiefs. We watched Alex Smith, the Chief, beat the Redskins at the time. Oh, who was it? Which receiver couldn't catch the ball? It went through his hands. Do you remember? In the end zone. It was a receiver everybody Josh
back shoulder fade dunk that Gruden loved.
Yeah, the fade. Remember they ran the fade like 6 plays in a row.
Yeah.
Josh Doxson? I think it was.
Doxson, yeah.
I think so.
It was Doxson.
That was a long time ago. All right, we're on we've changed our name since then to the no names. We have a 4-game win streak. We have a quarterback. Happy Taylor Heineke day to you.
1-year anniversary.
It was the 1-year anniversary of him being signed to the practice squad. So happy Heineke day to you. But FP, thank you for making time. It's Dallas week. I'm looking forward to this game. I think we're going to squeeze in one more show on Friday this week. I'd like to get LP on here to talk about the Wizards as well. Started off hot, definitely cooling down.
Us. He blames us.
Yeah, he can keep blaming us. I mean, we're all in this together. But I do miss him, and I want to get him on the show. I want to get his thoughts on the record, on the football team, but also on the Wiz, because the Wiz all of a sudden are sliding just a little bit. They're cooling off considerably. And then there's Champions League soccer, which I know you're not watching, and I'd prefer not to talk to myself. So we'll see if I can bring him in here. But
I might miss that
let's
show.
see.
But you guys have fun.
Let's close the show with this: who wins on Sunday, and what's the score?
Washington football team is winning. It's going to be a low, ugly game. I'm going 23-17.
23-17. I also have the football team winning. I was going to do my usual 50-3, but I'm not going to do that. I think they win. I also think it'll be ugly. I think it'll be a little bit more high scoring than that. I think if it goes too high scoring, it favors the Cowboys for sure. But I actually like them in a really close one. I'm going to go 21-20. Like really, really close.
Ooh.
Really close.
That's our style.
I
Hold the
think,
ball forever, win by 2.
Hey, listen, a win is a win, right? As Vin Diesel said, right? Doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile, right? Winning is winning. So we'll take it. We'll take it. If they can do this, the 5-game win streak will propel them over 500, close them to within half a game of the Cowboys, and then all bets are off at that point.
Well,
they
we
can
beat the
absolutely
Seahawks and the Raiders by 17-15, 2 weeks in a row. So 17-15 this week.
I mean, why not? If that's a prop bet, I'll take it. Sure, why not?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Anyway, his name is FP. My name is Joe. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Defeating the Curse podcast, available on all social media platforms, also available on all podcast platforms. If you like the show, hit subscribe, join us. We are a very humble show, but we love what we do. We enjoy doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. So hail to the football team, 4 in a row, hoping to make it 5 for FP. My name is Joe. For the entire cast of DTC, thank you so much for checking us out. Thank you to Joe V for joining us and talking fantasy. Thank you for Shelly Jordan. Thank you to Shelly Jordan for joining us as well. Super fan Shelly Jordan, super connected. Awesome to have her on the show as well. Until next time, thank you so much. We are out.